I'm Carol Parchewsky, past president of the Writers Guild of Alberta, and I'm here with Vivian Hansen. I am honored to be talking with Vivian about her Golden Pen Award from the Writers Guild of Alberta. This award recognizes Vivian for her lifetime achievements as an outstanding writer in Alberta. I first met Vivian as a student in her creative writing explorations course at University of Calgary. She has become a trusted mentor and advisor as I navigate my way in the writing world. Congratulations on your well-deserved recognition. Vivian is a past president of the Writers Guild of Alberta. She has been recognized with a teaching award for continuing education by the University of Calgary. Vivian has 3 full-length books of poetry that if you haven't read, you should read now. So Vivian, why did you become a writer, and what drew you to the different forums that you work in?
I don't know that I suddenly had a magic moment where I knew I was a writer. And I hear this from students. Well, I'm not sure I'm a writer yet. What makes me a writer? I had marvelous grade school teachers who decided I really couldn't do much beyond writing, so they really encouraged it. So that was fun. And so I think, sometime around in grade 4, I realized I just like to do stories. And my teacher, Mrs. Miller, asked me to read my stories to a class. So I have long experience at readings. I also had a magnificent high school teacher by the name of Patrick Donovan. And that name should tell you everything you need to know about poetry anyway. He thought poetry was sacred. And I agreed with him. And it was some time before I started writing and publishing my own poetry. But those mentors made me realize I was a writer.
That's excellent. Mentorship is so important. Mm-hmm. And it's great to look back and recognize who has helped us and supported us. And now you've mentored many writers in your career, from at the University of Calgary with the Writers Guild of Alberta, with the Alexandra Writers Centre Society. What has been your most memorable moment?
There's a range of things. I can remember all my failures as a teacher with alarming precision. And I did have some successes. Our interviewer here today, Carol Parchewsky, is a great success. But I remember, or like to remember, all those moments when students were at their lowest about what they were writing and thought it was crap. And I'm not sure I should say the word crap on this interview, but it wasn't. It was just a first draft or them groping towards something, and they had an aha moment. And it's either all my fault as a failure, or I guess they want me to take full responsibility when they do something amazing. So those are aha moments.
Well, I think it's important as writers and for the people who are thinking about becoming writers to realize that the first draft is only a first draft, and there's going to be many drafts after that before it's the polished piece that you see and that you hear at a reading or that you buy at the bookstore. And so I guess, Vivian, you inspire me. And I guess my question is, who inspires you?
Well, it depends on which hat I wear at any day. But if we're talking about writers, Bob Stallworthy has been an eternal friend and inspiration to me. Scott Alderson, a poet friend of mine. Joan Shillington, Micheline Mailer for her amazing editing abilities. Richard Harrison has been a great mentor. And many of the people that I spend time with, Wayman Chan, Stewart, Ian Mackay, all inspire me for different reasons. And my students inspire me. I can't get over what people produce, and they think I led them there, and they're amazing.
Yeah, no, that's great. And just the names you mentioned, they're people that I'm honored to know and be able to converse with. Now, one of the things is, you've spent many years writing. How do you make time for writing?
Oh, I use a journaling method called proprioceptive writing, which I also teach, to get me at the core of something that's bothering me. But I have a 2 to 3 hour window period of time when my creativity is at its best. It's usually in the morning. After that, the world calls me. So it's much too fragmented for my liking, but it works.
Mm-hmm. Where's the strangest place you have written?
Oh, I do a lot of writing outside. Actually, I do when I walk and I think about what I want to write. The kinetic moments help drive the narrative in my brain.
Yeah.
So when I'm writing, it doesn't really look like I'm writing. It looks like I'm meditating or somewhere else. Since I'm an extreme introvert, so people get a certain impression of me writing.
I actually have started for some of my writing. It's talking to myself. So I'll make a voice memo on my
Mm.
phone and then translate that to text.
Yeah, yeah.
And, just, and I
And I'll
found
bet you've got an iPod, so you can do that easily. Is that?
the iPhone,
Mm.
because I find that just getting past the mental filter
Yes.
and getting the words out. And it's almost getting to the what is my thought? What do I really want to say? What's my conclusion? What's my point?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, if you weren't a writer, what career would you have chosen?
Well, I worked for the U of C for 38 years as a student administrator. Um, and there were many who believed I wasn't good at it because I'm totally a lateral thinker. Um, and I think learning institutions do not particularly like lateral thinkers. Um, and the more linear they became inside of bureaucracy, the less I could function. So I don't really know what I would have been. Maybe I would have gone into the ministry, or being a nun these days is a different experience too. I might have been that. I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess
Sure.
what
Ask me
advice?
more.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. Now, what advice would you give to writers?
Any writers? Well, I work a lot with emerging writers who are very concerned about the craft and whether they're doing it right. And all I can say is forget the noise. You need to keep going and consider every piece that you finish, or even not finish, a piece of a portfolio, so that you can draw it up and make it saleable at some point. What advice I have for writers? I like the ideologies coming out of South Africa these days, the ideologies coming out of America these days, where voice is protest and showing is what you need to do. I have an enormous value for the concept of bearing witness to your times. And I think any writer needs to do that. Find where you need to bear witness.
Yeah, no, that's an important point to make, is because we're living right now in such an unprecedented time and moment, and to really stop and observe what's happening, how we're feeling, what we're noticing, what we notice deeply.
Yes, yes. Yes, and I think any of our writers in the Writers Guild are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to do more of it.
Yeah. Now, I guess, how has the Writers Guild of Alberta helped or impacted your work?
The Writers Guild has given me lots of opportunities to mentor people, to be involved administratively, to write for the magazine, for Westward, and I think I've seen it grow from a very small institution into something big that is still flexible and beautiful enough to incorporate all of its writers. So I'm really impressed with the way the Guild spreads the love around to all of its writers.
Yeah, no, and that's been something that, because when I started that first class with you, I wanted to try writing. That was my introduction to the writing community. And through that, I discovered the Writers Guild and then became involved in the Writers Guild. And just the community is amazing. And the connections.
I'm surprised at how many of my current students don't know the Writers Guild exists, or so I'm constantly sending them to, if they're Calgary, to Alexander Writer Center, but to be really part of a bigger cog, it's important for them to get involved with the Guild.
Yeah, no, because you get involved and there's the community of supporters and people that will help celebrate your successes, help celebrate when you have work published, when you're launching a book. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Vivian, what does receiving the golden pen mean to you?
Well, receiving the golden pen, to me, I've had thoughts lately about how I seem to be transitioning into my crone writer and passing on nuggets like the Calgary Women's Writing Project and New Form to younger writers. And I'm not sure how I got so old so fast, but acknowledging what I'm doing with mentorships. I'm hugely satisfied now by the successes, your successes. Moni Brar, who I mentored through the Borderlines Writing Community in Calgary through AWT. And many more like her, people at Loft 112 who have taken on New Form. It's so amazing to see my legacy, I guess it's mine, being passed on to younger writers as they just take it and say, oh, here we go, So it's kind of a cap. Yeah, in some ways I feel unworthy of it, but it's a nice reward for leaving seed and a legacy.
Well, you are so worthy, and I want to assure you that the golden pen is real and functional.
I'm so glad it won't be left in a library. I so want it to be lost in a library, and somebody knows where it is and retrieve it and bring it to me, because I thought that experience with Cecilia Fry was hilarious.
Yeah. that was great to be a part of.
Yeah.
That, and be able to present her the actual pen at her book launch.
Yes.
So what are you writing now, Vivian?
Oh, I have a project for drafting my book, A Bitter Mood of Clouds, into a play.
Excellent.
Yeah. Carol and Russell King, I hope, will be working with me on that, although I haven't officially asked her yet. I guess this is
Now you can.
and I have the possibility of a new poetry manuscript coming in, hopefully in the middle 2022, 23. So that's a possibility, not quite firmed up yet. I'm writing a novella and a memoir, and people will say, well, what's so interesting about your life? And it's actually an amazing memoir of not necessarily about me, but about my ex-husband. And yeah, lots of healing bridges there. So,
Yes.
and poetry, I'm always writing. So, yeah. And fiction. I'm having writing fiction. Can you believe that?
Yes, I can. No, that is excellent. I'm excited about the memoir. And I think memoir is such an interesting process to go through and to write, because you can have that you look at it and sometimes you think of it as exploring yourself, but sometimes it's exploring the world around you and better understanding your connection to it and your perceptions.
Yes, it's a very intriguing craft. It doesn't necessarily bear any relationship to fiction or any of the tropes of fiction in the ways we write it. It's you can make it your own little craft. So yeah, I'm very impressed with all these things that, but there again is my lateral thinking. I pick something out and say, oh, that's pretty. I want to work pretty.
Yeah.
And so I have lots of projects on the go.
Yeah. But what I found, and especially what I found when I was taking classes with you and going through the certificate program and classes at the Alexandra Writers Center Society, and then now just as I was finishing off my MFA in creative writing, is that as you work in the different forms, there's things that you pick up from poetry that inform your fiction, and things from fiction, from the creative nonfiction, from the memoir, the screenwriting. They all tie together. And by being able to participate in each of them, it can make your writing richer.
Yes, each genre I find fortifies another one in some way. It's so when you can do hybrid work, it's so exciting.
Yeah, so I'm happy to hear all of the projects that you're working on, and I can hardly wait to be there at the launch.
Oh well, yeah, eventually we'll get some more launches in there. It's as I do less teaching, certainly no administrative work anymore if I can help it. I find myself, this is maybe part of the experience of becoming a crone writer, is that you actually have the brain power to do this. You need to probably wait till middle or old age to really do it well. I wonder about that.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question, because it becomes how much of it, having the experience and living and reflecting back on different moments. Because I've always found it interesting to look at, sometimes I look at my life and I reflect back on certain events of my life, of my family's life, and how old now I'm at the age that my mom was at this age and this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you a different context, because you always look to your elders as having the knowledge. And then when you reach the age that they were at a certain point, and then you realize you don't know everything. you just know that there's more you don't know.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes,
then,
I would say the end of, I finished my MFA with UBC. And if they'd kept me on there for another 5 or 6 years, I would have been quite happy. There's so much I yet wanted to do, that the program, well, you're graduated now, see ya. Everybody thinks, oh, you've got an MFA, that's the end of the line for you. But I continue to learn from mentors who may or may not have an academic degree, and who are just amazing writers.
mhm. Well, no, and I think that's something that, what I've learned and what I've observed in the writing community is just the continuing to learn
Yes.
and to take workshops, to take seminars, to participate as instructor and as learner.
Yes. Yeah.
So now what's next for you?
Oh, continue teaching, I suppose. And if that doesn't work out necessarily, I shouldn't even qualify this, because I need to finish some of those projects, or sit hip deep in them and finish them. It's time to do that. One of my great mentors, Cecilia Fry, is now, I can't tell you exactly how old she is, but she is in her 80s, and I think she pulls out a book every year. So, of course, she's brilliant, and I'm not necessarily, but I hope to be doing that in 20 years. So,
Well, there we go. And you are brilliant. You
oh,
just you're humble, but you're brilliant and inspiring, Vivian. And
thank you.
so one of the important questions for you is, and for people who watch this, where can people find you if they want to take classes from you, work with you, and where can they find your work?
Well, my work can be found. Frontenac has published the last 2 pieces, A Bitter Mood of Clouds and A Tincture of Sunlight, are my most recent poetry achievements. I have work coming out with the U of A Press in Rona Altros. By the way, I should say something about Rona Altros. This is an amazing woman. She is astonishing. You don't mess with her. You need to go to protests with her. You need to just get into this brilliant woman's mind. And I'm not just saying that because she nominated me for the Golden Pen Award. So I'm probably going off lateral track here, but Rona is the editor of that book that's coming out with U of A Press, which is called "You Look Good for Your Age." So I feel like armed with the golden pen, I can really make a lot of noise. And I have some things coming out with the new quarterly poetry and the Prairie Journal, and hopefully more to come. I've kind of lost track, but that's cool.
Well, that's very cool. And thank you, Rona, for nominating Vivian.
Are you watching, Rona? I know you were watching.
Hi, Rona.
If you thought I was going to get to the end of this interview without mentioning your name, think again. Here you are. And of course, other people were involved in that too, who would have nominated me for King if they could have. But and I've mentioned them, I hope. So.
Mm-hmm. And so, Vivian, once again, congratulations on your achievements. You are a fabulous advocate, supporter, mentor for writers, and a talented writer. And I look forward to seeing what you write next. And I look forward to getting together with you to debrief on my MFA experience.
Well, maybe we should invite Jason for a beer too. I mean, everybody needs to debrief from your MFA.
Yeah.